What up, nerds, and welcome to another meaty episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name is Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 362, recorded on Monday, March 14th, 2022. Tonight, we're going to be talking about a brand new film just hit Hulu. It is called Fresh. Before we get into the movie, let me introduce everyone else on the show tonight. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got our boy, Randu. What's up?
Rigatoonie.
How's it going, buddy?
I'm hungry.
We ready
for Rigatoonie.
You ready to dig into this thing? You ready to tuck in?
Don't get fresh with me, sir. I have no time.
Okay. I just realized I opened a Pandora's box that we can't close. The pun box is opening.
The puns will be flowing.
Shut it down. Our faces are going to melt if we keep this up.
Last but not least, calling in from Southern Korea, we got our boy Soju. What's up?
Oh, what up? It's your boy Sous Chef Stains. I'm the big deuce around here.
The big
deuce?
Yeah, number 2, sous chef.
Okay. All right. That did not come off the way you intended.
Bob's head chef. Oh, I think it came off exactly how I intended.
I'm sorry to underestimate you.
I'm the big shit. Says
Bob's
Juice.
Head chef. I'm sous chef.
Hey, here
I'm
I come.
Big deuce around here.
I'm the big shit. I'm the big ass loaf.
I think I know what I'm doing. Okay.
I knew no matter what I said, Bob was going to get me a laugh on that one. No matter what.
I'm your easy mark.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Dependable for scatological humor.
What? Bob's a scat man.
There you go.
Scat man Bob.
I'm the deuce man. Yeah, talking about a new movie this week, but before we get into it, let's tackle some housekeeping real quick. Here's another reminder. Our April poll pick is currently posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this April. The theme for April is Kids on Bikes. The 3 movies to vote between are Super 8, Attack the Block, and Turbo Kid.
Hey, Bob.
So,
how those numbers looking?
Pretty
halfway through March.
I know.
Jesus Christ.
What is time? Where are we? What's happening?
Time goes by.
Here you go.
You go on.
Does it stop?
No.
It don't.
It doesn't. Turbo Kid is still winning. Attack the Block is in second place. Super 8 is losing.
Oh, Super 8. I've only seen that movie one time in the theaters. Yeah. And anytime I try to think about it, I think I just picture the new It movies.
Well, I mean, then it's in the right category. Yeah, I mean, that's a movie. I feel like the other ones. I feel like everybody kind of had that reaction with Super 8 when we announced it on this. It was like, yeah, not a memorable movie.
Yeah, there's some
crazy for a Spielberg one. Yeah. I'm kind of curious to see it again just because I'm like, why did this slide off the dome so easily?
Me too. I legit can't think of a scene except for that train scene, which I believe was the trailer.
Yeah, totally was.
And I don't remember what happened in it. I just remember a train at night. Dramatic.
Interesting that we all feel that way.
It's universal.
Kind of remember the end a little bit, but not very clearly.
I do not.
So, we're probably not going to be watching that one anyway. So we'll never know.
All right.
We'll never know. Get those votes in before the end of March. We'll see what we're talking about this April. We're going to be dropping a brand new mini cast this Friday on Patreon. If you support us at the $10 level or above, you get access to a back catalog of Patreon exclusive episodes. We got over 60 on there now. This Friday, we're dropping a review of Mindhunter Season 1. Juice, you were chatting about that one, weren't you?
Oh yeah, as I mentioned last year, I did a couple classic like horror or true crime TV shows. I try to stay up on like the newer stuff, but like last year, I went back and did True Detective seasons 1 and 3 from HBO. So this year, I went back and I was watching Mindhunter. It'd been a couple years since I went through it, and so I thought, like this is a really high quality, kind of one of the best true crime series on Netflix. So I wanted to cover it. I think eventually I'll be knocking out 2 as well. So that'll kind of be my classics for the year, maybe. But yeah, it's if you've never seen it or heard of it, it is a show you should definitely check out on Netflix. It's essentially about the FBI starting their profiles on serial killers, how to kind of like hunt them, categorize them, and the inspiration for our own Cooter Hunter segment.
That's
the profile that we created to hunt the Cooter. So a little straight chilling history there as well.
History.
I need to go back with that show, man. Tinch, he showed up in Nightmare Alley, and I was I gotta watch this shit. I gotta rewatch that shit.
Yeah, it's good.
Tinch, don't flinch.
Spoilers.
Yeah, check that out. Check that out on Patreon. In other Patreon news, we're going to be reopening the You Pick the Flick tier Sunday, March 27th.
This is like the straight chilling Black Friday, except we do it 4 times a year.
4 Black Fridays a year. Black Sundays, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sunday, March 27th at an undisclosed time. So you'll just have to check Patreon throughout the day to see when the tier opens. If you're a new listener to the show, this is the only way for you to outright pick a movie for us to review on the show. There's only 5 spots per quarter, and they typically go very quickly. So you'll have to be quick on the draw on Sunday, March 27th. Mark your calendars. That's all I have, gentlemen. Do you guys have anything you want to touch on?
So many things, but nothing news-wise.
Touch on me.
This house is clean.
Yeah, the house is clean. Let's get into the main event. We're talking about Fresh from 2022, and we're kicking it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
All right, yeah, this is brand new, straight to Hulu. It's the only place you can watch this movie. Fresh has a runtime of 1 hour and 54 minutes. This stars Sebastian Stan, the Winter Soldier himself, Daisy Edgar-Jones, and some other folks. Jojo T. Gibbs. This was directed by Mimi Cave. This is her feature film debut. She done like some music videos and shorts before this. Brand new movie. Obviously, we had not seen it before. Quick plot synopsis brought to you by IMDb is as follows. The horrors of modern dating seen through one young woman's defiant battle to survive her new boyfriend's unusual appetites. Gentlemen, would you recommend people check out Fresh? Randy, kick us off.
Yeah, I would. This is, like Bob said, it's Hulu exclusive, is it not?
I believe, yeah.
Okay, yeah, it was a Sundance show or whatever. Like, this is a pretty good thriller to toss on, I think. I think it's pretty accessible. I don't think it has some pretty dark subject matter, of course, but it's a horror movie podcast. So I'm assuming that you're somewhat comfortable with that. It's nothing, that would be beyond the pale, I don't think, but it isn't very light. It isn't extremely light, and don't be confused by the cadence of any of the trailer or anything. There's not a ton of comedy in here besides just, breaking for levity. Yeah, I think it's totally worth your time.
All right, Juice, what about you?
Yeah, I would recommend. I don't know if this is something you should go out, but it's a great dark thriller that does have some interesting comedy beats to it. It's constructed really well, and it's got some pretty fantastic acting in it. So yeah, it does touch on some pretty difficult horror aspects, I guess, without getting into the spoiler aspects, I think it's not like the easiest stuff to watch for some people. But the subject matter is super, super interesting.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bob, how about you? Would you recommend people check this out? It's not in theaters, so I mean, is it even worth it?
I think it's definitely worth watching. I hard recommend this one. It's an extremely well made movie. The acting is like top notch. It's as funny as it is terrifying, I think. It's, as far as like streaming goes, it's like it's one of the better movies I've watched streaming this year. So I definitely recommend checking it out. And I think this movie could kind of transcend the horror genre too, and it probably has, primarily because of Sebastian Stan being in it. But I think like even if you're not like a horror hound, there's enough other stuff in this that I think most people would probably enjoy it. So yeah,
that's a good point. If it weren't for the subject matter that I don't want to bring up before the spoiler warning, then I would completely agree with you. But that might be the wall.
It's a little tough. Yeah.
Speaking of, you've kind of covered it, but just know that is a content warning. I don't want to jump in. It's spoiler to say what's the content warning.
Yeah.
But suffice it to say, sexual violence is in the mix.
Yes. True statement. But that does sound like a pretty solid recommend from the Straight Chilling crew. We are going to drop that spoiler warning before we get into the rest of the movie. Here we go.
Spoiler warning.
Let me hit you with my plop. Here we go.
I know you had plenty of time to write it this weekend.
So much.
That humor is just riding.
This is a short one. Let me blast through this. All right, the movie opens up with our main character, Noah, on a truly awful date with a dude named Chad. She's been online dating and has decided that after that date, she's fine being alone. She then runs into Steve, a very handsome and charming fellow in the grocery store. She gives him her number, and they start dating soon after that. Steve invites Noah to go away on a weekend trip with him, and she agrees. She stays the night at his house before embarking on the trip, and Steve ends up drugging her and chains her up in his basement. He explains to her he's going to be selling her meat. He sells meat to extremely wealthy cannibals, and he plans to keep her alive as long as possible because it keeps the meat fresher. Noah's best friend Molly becomes concerned about her after receiving text messages that don't quite sound like her. She tracks down Steve's home and discovers he has a wife and kids. When Molly confronts Steve, she is knocked out by his wife, actually. We find out Steve's wife is in on it, too. Noah tries to play on Steve's genuine interest in her, and he ends up inviting her to dinner. They eat human meat together. They laugh it up, have a great date. They end up going to the bedroom. Noah then bites his dick off. She ends up setting the other girls free, and they have a huge brawl in the kitchen. Steve chases all the girls out into the woods, and they shoot him in the face. Steve's wife then shows up and attacks Noah. Molly bashes Steve's wife's head in with a shovel, and as Noah finally gets signal back on her phone, she receives a text message from none other than Chad asking, "You up?" Roll credits. I
did not realize that was the same guy.
I don't think that really hit home with me either. That's pretty funny.
I didn't remember his name being Chad or anything like that. That is kind of funny.
Of course it's Chad.
It's funnier than it being just a random text.
That didn't quite hit home with me because of what we saw. But that's pretty good. Man, wow.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dude,
go ahead.
I just wanted to jump into that opening sequence where she's on a date. Like, online dating is what it is. It's not ideal. It can be pretty fucking rough. But that scene is, from what I understand, like extremely relatable for a lot of women. But it's like so cringe. Like I was like busting a gut watching it. I thought it was like really, really a funny way to open the movie, even though it's like sad that it's relatable.
Man, I'll say that the opening of this movie is brilliant. The way it's constructed and the pacing of it. And not just that scene, what I mean by, and just kind of the whole construction of this film, but the opening credits for this don't kick in until 30 minutes into the film, but the way that they set it up is so fucking smart, because the first 30 minutes of this are essentially a romantic comedy, if you will.
Straight.
Yeah.
Audition style.
And man, once it's like, no, this is the movie, but we had to set that up, which is great because they take the time to set these characters up so well, because, you know, it's more of a, you know, a closed off kind of film, you know, small cast, you know, essentially what would be kind of like a home invasion or like a kidnapping isolation type of film. But the setup, it pays off so well because it feels so understandable. They do such a great job, even with this opening dating scene of like, how many people can relate to this? Oh, you know, like it's just wacky enough to be like, no, yeah, I, you know, understand that situation. But then it makes the softness of them meeting and then having a good date that much better, only to then throw you in the pit of what this film really is. It's so smart. I was so impressed.
See, like, I don't know, like, to me, to be just a little bit critical of that, because I do think it was good, but like, I think that the Chad character was maybe hammered a little bluntly. Like, to me, it was a little bit, a lot of this movie feels a little bit on the nose, a little bit too blunt at times. But I kind of don't mind it because of the aesthetic of the movie. Like, this is kind of the same thing with like, I can't remember the name of it. This movie made me think of a few movies, one of which I was going to mention, but I can't remember the name of. But I was also going to mention In Fabric, in terms of like the color grading aesthetic of this movie. I thought was really great. And then like the title sequence is one of my favorite title sequences I've seen in a while. Like, it is a fucking awesome, like 70s trip, like wig out moment. And the fact that it happens when it does, like Justin said, is like really unexpected, to the point where you're like, oh man, I didn't even realize we hadn't seen this yet. Like, you already know your characters really well at this point, like pretty well, except for the one that's about to turn it on its head. So yeah, I really loved that. I just thought that like maybe some of the social commentary was a little bit, or not even social commentary, just like some of the humor was just a little bit more blunt than I would have chosen if it was me. But it's not me. People don't let me make movies.
Not yet.
The movie's definitely not subtle in really any way. I do love that, like, they lull you into this like sense of security, and like, I understand what this movie's going to be. And unless you've seen a trailer for it, which you probably have if you're watching it, they totally pull the rug out from underneath you after 30 minutes in, which is a bold move, I think. But like this movie, to Randy's point, it's very blunt. Like, the messaging of it is blunt. Like, you know, women being considered like pieces of meat, and he's literally just selling her for her meat. Like, it's very on the nose, but I don't mind it at all, honestly. Like, it's it doesn't need to be any more complicated than that. I think the characters themselves are rich enough that that's really where my interest lies, primarily in these characters, and not so much like the messaging of the movie, even though that is still interesting to me. But like,
I don't either, because it's so clever.
Yeah.
It's like, you just put it out there in a very, you know, the basics of it. Yeah, the simplistic, but that's fucking smart.
Yeah.
Like, how many times do we say, oh, treated like a piece of meat and stuff like that? And okay, you literally are, in a sense, or whatever. And it's just, I think that's very clever, because then they even push that further, the kind of little things that he gives away with the meat to give it that personal touch or whatever. It's both like makes sense, because how many times have we talked about or joked about, you know, the Japanese vending machines that sell like panties or whatever, or I mean, just, you know, joking about, oh, if I could sell my dirty skivvies, you know, but I mean, that's a real thing. And so like to include that in, you know, this black market meat selling situation, or even, oh, the women taste better. It's like, it's so fucking smart to me. I just think it's so not in like fucking Christopher Nolan, oh my God, my mind is blown kind of thing, but like, man, that's just really clever.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, to me, it's like, I don't know. It's not that it's bad, because you're right. Like, it's the journey of this movie is what makes it like really enjoyable to me. Like watching it play out, because to somebody's credit, I don't know who said it, but like the characters all behave the way you would expect that character to behave. Like they're not. Mm-hmm. They do a good job of setting like, you know, goals and, you know, personality types or whatever. So it all like feels very natural in that sense. And I think that kind of makes up for some of the bluntness of the commentary that's going on, because I don't think that the commentary really ends at women are like meat or whatever, because I think this is kind of like maybe my big complaint about the movie, if there is one, is that the ending gets real sloppy. And I think that it gets sloppy both in messaging and in the way that it like sets up and pays off some stuff. But we can get there in a minute. I just want to like, other than that, I really do want to live in some of the good aspects of this movie. Seb Stan is like killing it in this fucking movie. He's supremely weird. I heard it put that way, and it's absolutely accurate. Like, he plays almost what you would expect from the like the Ted Bundy situation, or what I would when people describe him, where he picks women up. He's good looking, he's charming, but he's simple. He's a doctor, but he's very down to earth. He's kind of humble, and he pokes fun at himself, like, oh yeah, I'm a plastic surgeon. And he's not arrogant, you know. And then when he has to switch, though, he still keeps that personality. I love how they didn't make him go like Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, where it's weird because he's still unbelievably cruel. Of course, he's like, oh, I'm going to cook for you. I'm going to treat you well and stuff, and just lays everything out. He's not like putting his hands together and like, oh, I got you, you bitch, or whatever. Yeah. You know, he's still super charming, but in a now super creepy. What you thought of as like, oh, endearing and, you know, welcoming, soft, becomes this on a dime, becomes this Bateman,
disturbing, truly Bateman, creeping you out. Yeah. It was great.
I want to piggyback off that point. And like one of the most interesting aspects of this movie to me is like the character of Noah and also Steve's wife. They're like battling with like this sort of Stockholm syndrome, because he is sweet, endearing, charming, a good cook, good looking dude. Like he's the full package, but he's also a fucking psycho who's trying to sell your meat. And like his wife, we come to find out later in the movie when she's taking a shower, she takes off her leg. It's like a prosthetic. And we're led to believe that like he cut her leg off and like was selling her meat too. But then eventually they fell in love, got married, had kids, had a fucking family because of this like Stockholm syndrome kind of thing. And we see Noah kind of struggling with that too. Like she's definitely playing him, but I think she's actually struggling with like still having real feelings for him at the same time. But like she overcomes it and like, you know, kills him at the end of the movie. But like I think that's really interesting that they include that aspect in there.
I did too, but like that's kind of where like a lot of the ending part starts to like, I don't know, just confuse me maybe, because most of it feels so blunt that I feel like when the wife was introduced, there's a number of ways they could have handled that, right? And I was also really interested in the idea like, oh, she is also a victim, but is she a victim, or is she a Stockholm situation, or is she part of this, you know, Illuminati situation, this devil worship, whatever you want to call it? That because there's like subtle hints in one way or the other, but nothing like even remotely concrete. And they're kind of that way about her relationship to him. When part of me was like, okay, well, I guess maybe she'll celebrate too when he's dead, if he dies in this movie. But no, she wants to keep the business running. She tries to, you know, like usurp the place. I also thought, I don't know, I feel like there were a lot of things set up in this movie that just did not at least concretely land. I wondered if that the person who wrote that message in the magazine that Noah found that said like, oh, if you're reading this, that means he likes you, play it up, something like that. It was from like Sammy something, I don't know, whatever the name was. And then we saw that person in his trophy case, kind of face covered. And it's sort of like a Mideastern type-ish name. I couldn't really tell. I don't remember. But it was not like a white woman's name. But later on, I was wondering, like, I wonder if like he's a plastic surgeon. I wonder if his victim turned accomplice turned wife maybe was this girl who played him so well that she eventually became Stockholm Syndrome and was plastic surgeoned into what he would consider his ideal mate. I don't know. Like I thought maybe they would go that direction, but by the end, it was kind of confusing to me what her deal was in general.
Really? That didn't bother me too. And actually, what this movie did well to me to kind of go against that is I thought it set up, it wasn't just the theme of, women are meat and then he literally turns them into meat or whatever. It wasn't just that. I thought they hit on several, even the idea of this opening scene of it just kind of shows how miserable just regular life can be. Outside of anything else going on, I thought even that opening scene that they set that up so well, and it was maybe a little, ham-fisted a little bit, but I don't know. I thought it was subtle enough to where it was like, yeah, that feels truly authentic. In the same way with the way that the wife operates, I thought that they did a great job in this ridiculous kind of situation of just kind of touching on like the feelings of what like an affair would be like. Because to me, what I got is like she had been in that situation. Oh, she's been a victim before. Obviously, we see her leg is removed. And she now she thinks like she's in, the inner circle. She's a part of it now. So she feels more respected, and as crazy as that is. But then she's dealing with an affair in this same type of situation, as crazy as it is. But to remove the crazy aspects of it, it still like rings true. Like, oh no, that was me and we fell in love. I'm special. I'm a special one. And she finds out that he's sleeping with another victim who is then going down the same path as her. I thought that was smart as shit.
See, no, I did too, but they didn't really pay that off to me. Like, I felt like, okay, when what was her friend's name?
Molly.
Oh God, Molly. When Molly went, I was like, okay, so in my mind, I was predicting how this would go down. It's like, okay, well, this woman's going to just not believe her and just say you're crazy or whatever. And then she's going to show her the photo and be like, oh my God, she has this photo. It must be true. And then she's either going to, it's going to turn out that she's part of it, but he's not supposed to sleep with anybody else. That's the bridge he crossed that he's not supposed to cross. And that's what's going to turn her against him, despite, all things. It didn't play out that way, which is fine. But it also didn't really, to me, pay off like her relationship with him, because I just didn't really understand where that relationship started. So I couldn't really understand how it ended with her trying to choke this woman out. And like,
it paid off to me in its subtle, like, truth almost of like, yeah, okay, maybe they fell in love and there's this crazy situation, but now they are married and have a family now. And obviously, as he starts to stray, she's like more worried. She like, it becomes that kind of numb, like that kind of stereotypical in a way numb marriage where they have kids and they're going through the motions. It's just they have this crazy business. But if you take out the crazy aspect of it, like, yeah, her husband and her business partner, essentially her life force, was just killed. And of course, like, she's been going on along with this for a decade at least at this point. I mean, it's a part of her life. So I didn't necessarily need to like, oh my God, I'm free. I was like, no, this is almost like where they started, the kind of subtle truths of life. It was less of a dramatic narrative of like, oh my God, I'm free. It's like, no, that's how people really get. Even if you don't completely love someone, you just, you have a life and your business partners. And it's like, yeah, that's the life I'm going to protect. And so if my crop is out escaping and kills my husband, I mean, that's how I would expect her to react. And that's how she reacted.
I don't know. To me, like it just to me really felt like, and I'm not gonna. I mean, we won't have to keep talking about this, but yeah, the the whole thing where I couldn't tell if she was like secretly the ringleader or like maybe she was his first love and she was the first person he ever like. I just feel like we didn't get enough background for me to feel really on solid footing with how they ended that character. The way that it ended, I was like, she didn't seem sad that he was dead, but she also seemed upset that he slept with somebody else, maybe. Yeah. And none of it was like, I just didn't feel like, maybe it was partially the performance. I don't know, but I wasn't clear on what that woman's motivations were for a lot of it, besides the very, very overtly obvious. And I just I kept expecting that to be subverted or like, I don't know, to have some to say on top of that, but it really didn't. I love that they introduced that aspect. I do. I think that that's one of the more interesting aspects, which is why I just kind of felt like, oh, okay, so what did it all culminate in really? Anyway, but that aside, like the way this movie ends in general kind of has some issues anyway. Like, I don't understand why they chose to end it with them still lost in the woods and then still a henchman roaming around somewhere. Like, yeah,
that guy just kind of doesn't do anything, right? He just walks away, I guess.
And
I don't know.
Yeah. And then like the bartender friend of theirs that was going to like theoretically come save them or else at least going to be involved just turns and runs. And like logically, I understand why that character would do that, but it kind of means that we wasted time following him, doesn't it?
Yeah, he didn't really do anything. Like they could have cut him out of the movie and the ending would have been the same, you know, it wouldn't have changed anything.
That's why I wonder if that was supposed to say something. That's why I'm like that's one of the reasons I'm kind of confused on the ending is just maybe they're trying to say like, okay, even a good guy is going to like turn tail and run the minute things get shaky. Okay. I guess that's something.
It is like the characters are all smart in this movie though. So like he wants to help up to a certain point until he feels like his own life is in danger and then he bails. Yeah. And I like that reality of it, even though it doesn't really impact the story, unfortunately.
Yeah, but then it's just like from a storytelling perspective, why do we follow him doing that?
Sure. Yeah, me too, because every beat and aspect of this movie, from the opening scene to the crazy, wacky shit that's going on, has this like subtle, simple life truth to it, you know, where I was kind of getting some Get Out vibes of the dude kind of pulling up and stuff like that. But I mean, everybody kind of reacts in this way and in a way that's true in this wacky situation where you're right. Like from a storytelling perspective, you're like, oh, you know, why do we follow this guy? But also it does add some genuine tension of like, he's finding her and stuff like that. But it's like, it's not like, any good guy's going to tuck tail and run. It's just like, no, that dude was like, scared for his life. Yeah.
Like on a nuts and bolts level of like somebody's behavior and like the drama and the tension of his journey or whatever, just everything up until he turns and leaves and leaves the movie is totally fine. And I'm on board with it. It just feels like it's really just a question of payoff. Like, okay, so how did this pay off in this movie other than like, you know, a few minutes of tension for a character that we ultimately doesn't factor in, period. And like, I don't know, it just kind of felt a little bit maybe sloppy. And then there was something else I was going to bring up. Oh, and then there's like a few like things that maybe some people would see as nitpicky. Becky, I watched this with Becky, and Becky knows, you know, because of their profession, knows a lot about like, you know, the way musculature works. They're in a healthcare field, so it's like it was interesting to hear some of the information that they had to say about like when Noah's ass gets taken and eaten. I don't mean that in the fun way. Yeah,
not fun
when
for
that
you.
Happens, Becky's like, well, she'll never walk again because those muscles move your legs, and then we see that it only takes an indeterminate amount of time. It seems like a couple weeks for her to work out her way into having.
We also don't know
a nice dress.
We also don't know how much he took.
Just a little off the top.
Yeah, and that's the thing I keep telling myself. And the thing is, like, that's why it's nitpicky, because I could also explain it away, but then I'm doing the work of explaining it away, and that's
if I didn't have a healthcare professional tell me, well, if it was all taken and they never walked, then I'm not going to think anything of it.
I feel like I would know that, but I also am married to Becky, so maybe know that. But also, there's things like type of prosthetic. This is just like kind of informational. It's not even really a problem. I'm just I was interested in it. the type of prosthetic that Steve's wife has is apparently really old school. You can't get it anymore in the United States because it's so out of date and things like that. So I don't know, just like little things like that are pretty interesting. And I wonder if that was intentional. I don't think that the booty thing was intentional. Like she really did. She not, even if you only took a part of that ass, she's not filling out that dress. She's dancing around in Slinkily later on, like.
Yeah.
Maybe she just had a pile of booty meat to begin with, and you take a little off the top and it's still.
She didn't. She had. It was ample, but I mean, it's not enough.
Damn right.
Like,
you're gonna see you're gonna see a discrepancy. You can have one Hank Hill ass and one full ass.
Flapjacks, just like Mama used to make.
Going back to some other aspects, I will say that the soundtrack for this was baller.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the soundtrack. I love, like, a lot of films lately have just been killing it with the soundtrack. Old Titan was one that comes like straight to my mind of just like over the past like year, we've got a couple films that are just like, man, we watched A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night too. That's an older film, but still, we just got some good soundtracks lately. And this was just another one. I was like, hell yeah, they're really killing it with this.
Oh, yeah. This is unrelated. Bob, were you going to say something on that?
Not on that. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I was going to go back because I had meant to bring this up too. Like you had mentioned that you like the tone change when we actually hit the credits. I would argue that maybe that tone change really truly begins the minute she walks into this crazy modern brutalist fucking looking. It literally is a 60s Bond villain home. And that's what's so interesting about the choice to have him not go off the rails and go full like late stage Jason Bateman, Patrick Bateman, and instead just stay in that charm zone where he's successful. He's more Nightcrawlery than he is Bateman-y almost.
Yeah.
You guys seen that movie Nightcrawler? Yeah. So that, I don't know. I really like that, especially because the setting is so cartoonishly villainous.
Yeah, that's a good point. As soon as you said that, I was like, oh, fuck yeah. I mean, yeah, that fits. Yeah.
I wanted to touch on a little bit of Steve's like psychosis, and he briefly talks about like the first time he eats human meat and how it was like nothing he's ever had before, and he had to figure out how to like get into it, get more of it or whatever, and he finds out about this like underground cannibalism black market situation. But I think like he kind of explains to Noah like his version of love, and it's very much wrapped up in this like cannibalism situation where he says like it's about giving yourself over to somebody, becoming one forever. It's a beautiful thing. That's surrender. That's love is what he says. So like this, he sees love as a complete surrender to him. Like, that's his version of love, and how like fucked up that
is resonant with what Chad says at the beginning, if you'll remember. Chad's behaviors. He's like the alpha predator of Chad's. That's what this guy is.
Dude, I want to touch on that and through so many aspects. Jesus Christ. I don't even know that, man. There's so much to peel back with that. Oh, Bob, did you want to say something else about it?
I was going to roll into more cannibalism talk. So if you want to touch on that, let's finish that up.
Well, no, let's go ahead and cover the cannibalism because we were talking about the psychosis, and let's go ahead and talk about the cannibalism first.
All right. This is like a bit of a detour.
Do your thing, cuz.
Do your thing, cuz. I talked about in what you've been watching a couple weeks ago about this Netflix docuseries called Catching Killers. In one of the episodes, they think they're hunting a cannibal in the show.
Yeah.
I found that to be extremely interesting. And they get into like this real website that's called Zambian Meat, and they use that website to catch this dude.
Oh my god! That's a real website?
Yeah, I think it's been shut down.
Or it was,
since, but it did exist.
Oh my god!
And yeah, there were like people who considered themselves to be cannibals, and the website like framed itself as like a cannibalist like make believe, like it was all like fake, right?
I don't know.
Supposed to be real.
I don't know. I don't think that's necessarily the case because after you recommended, I watched it too, and I was blown away by that episode. And then we watched this, I was like, "Holy fucking shit!" Because we just watched that. because they had to find a way. You had to get invited to the site. So the site wasn't necessarily advertised as anything. It was one of those closed communities where you had to get an invite to even, it wasn't just like, oh, let me just search Meet and I'm in the community. It was completely like protected. And so the guy who got caught, his defense was, oh, I'm just make-believing, it's fake. But I don't know if the site was advertised that way.
I tried to look it up, and I'm sure I'm on a watch list now. But when I was reading it, it seems as though that's how it was advertised. I don't know. I was never on the website.
Okay.
But this guy who was on this docuseries, he like labeled himself a master chef, which means he knows how to like prepare human meat or whatever. And there would be people that would go on the website that were like willing participants, like, hey, kill me, cook me, eat me, whatever. And they would be called like, long pigs, like
the long pigs.
Yeah. Master chef seeking long pig. And it's like this whole like subculture of cannibalism that I guess really exists in some way. And I found it to be like just fucking mind blowing. And there was a news story 4 or 5 years ago about some dude in Sweden who was like looking for a willing participant and found one on the internet and like ate this like teenage kid or some shit.
That was a while ago.
Yeah.
That's like, I've been hearing that story since I was in high school, probably.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, it's just some of this exists, and I find that to be fucking insane and really mind blowing.
Yeah.
That's the thing that made this even more, because we just watched that episode. I was like, there was this one site that they happened to stumble across just because of something completely unrelated. And I was like, you say like, oh, I'm on a watch list. But honestly, nobody was doing anything. It just so happened to tie into some other case in this weird roundabout way. Is the only way that they even stumbled across this. Yeah. And so I'm thinking to myself, like, there's crazy ass communities there for literally anything. We say like there's someone for everyone. Like you can, if you have a passion for something, there's other people that do too. And there's some kind of community. And that's why this made this even more kind of believable in a way, because I just watched that episode where people were trying to give themselves up to be eaten. Like, hey, I have this need for you to eat me. That's crazy, but it exists in real life. That's a true thing with lingo and everything, rules.
That's so interesting, because you're touching on something that I felt watching this movie, but on like an entirely different level, because I haven't watched what you're talking about. So it was not something that was fresh on the brain. I don't know the nuts and bolts of the cannibal trade. Inherently.
No.
When I was watching this, like I was so disturbed by this in a way that like, I don't like, I'm pretty unsqueamish with movies. I mean, like, except for the really extreme stuff, like I think we're all like, we've just seen enough to, film wise to be pretty
numb,
seen some shit,
pretty numb to it, and just sort of like, we can feel the effectiveness of it, but we're not afraid. But this kind of like freaked me out because it's proximity to like human trafficking in general. Like I know generally how that works. And it seems like this, this is obviously, like, to me, as somebody who wasn't really thinking of, well, I don't really know how actual cannibals might operate this way, but I know that it operates like this way for human trafficking in some places. So like just on that gut level, it was just really disturbing to me, especially when Noah started speaking with her neighbor Penny. And just like, I was like, oh my God, they're going to show this woman and she's going to be so fucked up. We've been trained to think that way. And she kind of was fucked up. She's definitely like missing limbs or whatever. And I'm sure she wasn't in great shape, but she was able to like move and function when they finally did show her on screen.
She was missing one arm and one leg, I believe.
Was it okay? I couldn't remember the distribution there, and God knows how many organs or whatever, but
sure.
I don't know. I thought that whole thing and the way that they were talking about, like, maybe you're not even real. Maybe I'm just going crazy.
Yeah.
And I thought that whole, like, that felt really heavy because of its association with those things. It really felt heavy for me.
I wanted to talk on, so we were like splitting off a couple different ways. I want to talk on the psychosis a little bit. And actually, it's crazy that this kind of came back so recently. We did an episode in December on P-Deuce, which was our Christmas. But it was about the psychosis. This man kidnaps this woman and he's holding her in isolation, very kind of similar way. And at the time, and maybe I've just seen too many damn true crime docuseries at this point, too much serial killer shit, including the fucking Mindhunter. But at the time, Randy was like, you know, if I was in that position, I would like berate them, like, you let me go right now, you know, like try to tap in. And I was like, no. I was like, if it was me, I'm becoming their best motherfucking friend. And so when this shit hit this time, it was like really playing into like my psychosis as this pretend victim. Cause I was like, a couple things that just felt like, man, I feel like they're nailing this just from what I've seen. His association with wanting to be understood, like even just having recently watched Mindhunter, the idea of like, why do you want to question me? Oh, we're just like really interested in you. And then just people just explode their shit out, like tell you everything. And even in that series, me and Bob were watching, they said they caught the guy and he all of a sudden his demeanor changed and he was almost like proud of it because he could actually talk about it now. He had this like light inside of him, this personality, and all of a sudden it came alive because he's like, oh, I'm caught. Oh, thank God I can like talk. They were like, it was like a relief to him. And so that triggered for me too, because I was like, holy shit, the way that Sebastian Stan changes and is like, becomes intrigued, like, why did you ask that? You know, why are you curious? And then how that relationship develops, I was like, man, even that feels true. Even that has a subtle truth to it. Like every little aspect of the human trafficking, the dating, the psychopath, the market, like everything feels like it has this truth to it, which you're right, makes it so much more troubling than a lot of stuff we feel, because it's so easy to constantly put yourself in these situations, even not even being a woman, as they're hunting women. And, you know, the whole idea is that it's, to me, I was still like, man, it would be so easy for any just regular smart person to be put in this terrible situation as a truth. And I don't know, I thought they did a great job with that psychosis of this character as well. And now she was able to use that against him. So I'm glad I'm on the right path to survival.
According to two movies. I mean, I see your point though, definitely. And I don't know. To also make another comparison, this movie also made me think of, for obvious reasons, The Farm.
Oh God, yeah. I forgot
film
about that
we
movie.
reviewed some years ago now, which was basically like. In an elevator pitch might sound like basically the same movie in some ways, except that it's not focused really on the idea of like men predating on women so much as people predating on animals in the farm industry. Yeah. And it's a very, like, you want to talk about blunt, that's the bluntest movie of all. Like, I've never seen a movie that like is
there
less
was
subtle
no
than that one.
there.
But yeah. And anyway, so like, yeah, the comparison is like, I remember them being like the lead actress speaking to somebody through a wall or whatever. And then them showing how horrific that person was, like the condition they were in or whatever. So like, I mean, these are things that I feel like, and the thing is, like, watching that movie, I was not bothered one bit. It really does make a difference to have A, understandable decision-making in your characters, and B, characters that you can connect with. And that, I mean, acting is what did it, honestly. Like, all of the actors, for the most part, in this movie, like all of your main casts, all the way down to like Penny and Molly, I think are great. And like, they really sell it. And it's easy to sell because the writing is so, it's understandable every step of the way for the most part, except for with the least understandable characters, which are the villainous ones, the killers.
I really liked Molly's character. Like, she's not just like copy paste best friend. She's like a character all in and of herself, and like she's got this like real relationship with Noah, and like the way they text and communicate is like it feels like really fleshed out. And when like Noah's not responding the way she always does, like throws up a red flag, and she makes sure that like she sees pictures of this dude, and when she finds out he's not like online at all, she's like, yo, that's a red flag, you got to be careful. And she goes,
I love how that's the red flag. Oh, you're not all over social media. What's wrong with you?
And
that could be a red flag.
Could be.
Sure, yeah.
Also, when her friend is like,
legitimately,
when her friend is quick to go out of town, she's like, yo, you're fucking dignitized already, which we should definitely use that in day-to-day conversations.
You don't?
I also like that
dignitize me, Captain.
She like goes, she finds the bartender, she drops a pin for him, so like she knows like he knows where she's at and everything. Like she does everything very, very smart. And she's not just like this copy paste, we just need a character here, so let's just write some bullshit. Like she feels like a full fucking person. Like you said, every character is like well thought out.
Everything that she did, I was thinking like that's how I would operate. Like that's how my brain operates. Like I'd be saving Rob's ass by like, all right, here's a pen, here's a thing,
it's
here's what's going on. Here's I'm recording this. I'm like doing that. I get like super paranoid about that shit.
Before. Like, hey, if I go missing,
we have. Yeah,
here I
that's
am.
True.
What?
Yeah. Like we've said some things like, hey, I might be walking into a shady situation. Just to let you know,
this is the address.
Yeah. This is the time. That's true.
What was I gonna say? I don't know. Like that whole. That's the stuff that like I like. I totally agree. Like it's the behavior, the way people act, all that stuff. Like that stuff is all great, which is why some of the like little like nagging things nag like they do. Like little things that just don't feel like they make. That they need to be there. For example, like when I was thinking about the scenes with Molly at her place of business, and there's one scene where, for really no reason whatsoever, a woman walks by and is like struggling to hold a mannequin, and it just kind of does nothing. I don't know. Maybe it's. I guess you could say that it's like, oh, it's the shape of a woman and it's breaking apart, but like that's a little high-minded for this movie. So I don't know, like little things like that, just like stick out to me like unsanded edges. Nothing really wrong with the final product, but it just feels like there could have been some refinement to even that out.
How did you guys feel about the meal prep, like the presentation of the human meat? Like, did that strike you in any particular way?
It did. Yeah, I thought it was great. I thought it was smart because, again, it's got this kind of like subtle truth to it of when he's explaining everything. Like, obviously, not a lot of people do this. And because I fell into it and I refined it, I have cornered this market or whatever, and people respect me for this. And it was somebody who was taking pride in their craft, and even in that sense it makes sense. Like, how would somebody even get started with this? And how he explains it just felt true to how you would stumble into any kind of like niche thing. And so once he's sharing that with her, he obviously shows a passion for it, and then he obviously is kind of going, it's only showing off his menu, like, oh, this costs $35,000, this meatball or whatever, and stuff like that. And it again, like everything else, just felt kind of like true for showing such a weird thing.
I mean, go ahead.
I'll say I wanted one of those meatballs. I'll be honest.
Dude, would you try the human meatball?
I would not. That sounds. There's no coming
around
back.
here. That means big money.
There's no coming back. We talked about this before, where that's the thing is we looked it up. There's a truth is like if you actually eat human meat, there's something about like something that's in us that if we eat ourselves would like cause
some sort of disease.
Disease, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think so.
Yeah. We talked about it in some other movie, and we were unclear about it. Rainey was pretty skeptical at the time, if I remember. But then we're like, yeah, if humans eat human meat, there's something about it that, like, I guess it's the same thing as kind of like having sex with your own relative. Like, there's something built within us. It's like, don't eat yourself. Don't sleep with your relatives. That's like you get a disease, or you can develop a disease that I think affects your brain.
Disease transmission by cannibalism, a rare event or common occurrence, is a scientific paper I just found. So anyway, so there's something to it.
Damn, yeah. Yeah.
Also, did you guys catch, I don't think it's explicitly stated in the movie, but whenever they're having their 4-course meal towards the end of the film, the breast meat that they're eating is Molly's.
Is it? I didn't get that.
I assumed that they were eating Molly. I thought that they would eat Molly the previous time because it happened right after her capture.
Yeah.
Okay.
And maybe they did. That's the other thing.
She's like clutching her chest when they're running around in pain.
I see.
That's that was the most horrific looking slice of meat in my opinion.
It was.
The breast looked gnarls. I did not.
Me
like
too.
it.
Yeah, I completely agree.
That is not muscle.
It looked like I think because it looked like a meatball. The meatball looks like a meatball. The breast meat looked like a boob. It's
just a different kind of tissue.
Yeah, but not something that you would eat.
No, definitely not. It's not cartilage, but it's like something. It's some other human.
It's like
other
very
body
fatty
product.
Yeah. Fatty and porous.
It would just all be fat.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. We ain't scientists.
I'll sign up for that booty meatball, but not for the breast fillet or whatever.
Bob's an ass man. Okay.
I only eat ass.
Dude, that's a great sound bump right there, Randy. You need to pick that one.
It also isn't penetrating you. That's a bummer.
Yeah, I know it, Bob.
Got a catalog of Bob.
Boy.
I remember one time, Bob, do you remember this in middle school, walking down the hallways, and you said something like that you probably weren't supposed to, probably something about shit. And our health teacher was like right behind you and you didn't see her.
Yeah.
And she just stared us down. Do you remember this?
I was talking
Bob
about...
has a history of stepping in it.
Yeah, I can do that sometimes. I was talking about a very uncomfortable lecture she was giving. I can't remember if it was about masturbation or menstruation. Something that as a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, you're like, oh my God, this is crazy. Grown-ups talking about this. And we were shooting the shit about it, and I was making jokes, and she was directly behind us. Yeah. It's like, oh fuck.
I don't think it's that different now if you hear somebody talking about those things.
Yeah. It's a weird, uncomfortable thing, especially when you're a kid learning about it. Like, oh my God. That woman was 90 years old. She taught my whole fucking family how to masturbate, apparently. Generations.
Damn.
So plump, so right.
Yeah, she's the reason I exist, most likely.
Damn.
Wow. Thank you, Miss White. Shouts out
Brown
to Miss
track. We got another Danny Brown track. It's the second time this month. Old Get Duked had some Danny Brown as well.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
One of the songs. I think it was when the guy was maybe pulling up to the house or something. I think it was when the bartender was driving around, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
Yeah, I don't remember either. But good shit. Good soundtrack. Go ahead, Randy.
Oh, one other thing is that Becky did just that Becky brought to my attention. Becky's been in cadaver labs or whatever, and so apparently the props of bodies in this were pretty convincing. So
what bodies
for what that's
did we
worth?
See,
we saw legs, we saw a whole freezer full of stuff.
Oh, okay, just when he was pulling. Okay, I gotcha. When he was
actually starting to carve stuff and do whatever before they do their meal.
I see.
And much on some grinding.
Perfect. I love that scene where he's got the little rolly cart and he rolls it into the freezer and we're getting this POV shot from the cart as he's loading it up and shit. I thought that was just
Breaking Bad.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, you're right. Very Breaking Bad. I thought that was a really cool shot. I don't know. You guys have any other big points you want to touch on before we rate this thing?
There was one more thing. Randy kind of touched on it before, but it was like a very impactful moment for me. This movie can just hit so many different buttons, and it's kind of nuts considering what we're talking about cannibalism, like black market. But the moment when the secret door opens and it has all the faces of the women, dude, my heart sank. Like, I was just like,
there's so many of them.
Yeah. And like their real faces just like going through, man, I just felt like complete shit. It just like was one of the most heartbreaking things like I've experienced in kind of a film like this. I was just like, man, something about that just hit so damn hard. I think it's too like, I have this weird tendency. This is like a personal trait of like, it had weight to it, and an important weight, to where anytime like there's any kind of major like thing where, the police shoot somebody and they're guilty and the video is available and people are calling for justice. Oh, yeah. I usually like make myself watch it because I feel like turning away is like to ignore the important truth. This was a person. Yeah, this was a person. This was, like giving that, when you look someone in the eyes and see them as a human being with their families around or whatever, it adds that weight, as it should. That's how we as human beings operate. And so to see, it's one thing to see a leg and it's a prop he's covering up and talking about these things like in your mind, in a mental state, but to see someone, to like look in their eyes, to see their face, like I thought that had the perfect real world weight to it, of even just because the themes of this movie, like people are treated like meat, it's like, we talk about how people become desensitized because they're on the internet. You're talking shit about someone, you're just typing on a computer, you're not looking somebody in the face. Like that, it just had that real, like humanistic feel to where I was like, it just fucking stabbed me in the heart. And it was just, for this movie to be able to hit so many buttons, but to not even have it like the pivot, like this is what we're going for and this is what we're going for, and we're put so much weight into the scene. It was like a scene that happened. It had an amazing emotional reaction for me, but it wasn't this like even necessarily pivotal scene. It was just a part of what was going on. I'm just like, man, it's just, it's like so well to me.
Mm-hmm. It just keeps showing like how deep the well goes of the depravity going on here. And like, that's like, and knowing that the person that whose words inspired her is now nothing more than, a picture and some doodads in a case behind some freak shelf. Like it's pretty heavy. And, like, you're right. Like, what's interesting is that this movie hits those kind of tones. It hits like on the human trafficking thing for me. And it really this movie successfully bummed me the fuck out a few times. Still, if I was talking about it with somebody in an offhanded way, would describe it as fun. It's kind of a fun thriller movie still. And that's kind of tough bridge to make.
Well, I think that's kind of the brilliance of the character too. It's like what you just described is maybe what the women feel of like, there's a man who's eating me. Right. So you would be like, well, how could you still kind of love him in this same kind of way of like this gruesome movie that like fucking just put you through the ringer sometimes, but then at the end of the day you're like, oh yeah, it's a pretty fun kind of movie.
I mean, have you seen his abs? Come on.
His abs. Whoa. He does like this great job. I made two notes I want to bring up before we finalize, but like I made two notes. Like sometimes I do notes, sometimes I don't, sometimes I just start and then don't, but one that made me laugh, and then they really both made me laugh. One is that like, Sebastian at the beginning of this movie, when he's trying to be charming, I got huge like Paul Rudd vibes off of him. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what would it be like if we found out in 10 years time that Paul Rudd is secretly in Armie Hammer's back pocket of the flesh eating world? Damn. Like, what if like, this is like, if you have charm and charisma like that and confidence, you can really kind of get away with fucking anything as long as you can, like, you know, conceal the truth of it, then you're good.
Not Tommy Doyle. Couldn't be.
Name's Tommy Doyle. Anyway, and then the second one was, and this is you're gonna have to go back and look at this guy, because I immediately thought but speaking of, by the way, fucking Noah meets Sebastian in a grocery store. That bitch is shopping. Hilarious and fucked up.
There's a big sign that says fresh meat directly above her too when they're having the conversation.
I missed it. I missed that part. But right before they actually first interact, she passes by this guy who I at first was convinced was Nardwar in old man makeup, sticking his finger in some milk.
Dude, fucking
like, and
Nardwar,
just like giving her creep vibes. Like just for like a second, I was like, oh, is that fucking? And it wasn't even the same hat, but it was like similar hats, similar hair situation.
All about the hat,
but like old, like an old man version.
Interesting.
And a Cooter version of Nardwar. Picked up
on some tiny details that I completely skim past.
Sometimes that's just how my brain does things, but yeah. Anyway, I just wanted to bring those up because they were kind of interesting and funny.
Sweet deal. All right, let's go ahead and rate this thing out of 5. Juice, why don't you kick us off? How do you feel about Fresh?
My pleasure, Bob. This movie, it's just the whole time I was watching it, I was like, positive. This is great. Holy shit. Thank God. Like, just everything I look for in a movie, this one kind of gave it to me. It's a clever premise, touching on kind of like simple truths and spinning it in a very interesting kind of way, without going too over the top with it. Each character, each situation, each kind of theme had this truth to it, this like realistic truth. Even when scenes are being kind of played up or a little over the top, I was like, I really like can feel each one of these situations. I think it was acted phenomenally. Everybody did such a great job in making me sympathetic and making me scared and like really being intrigued in the psychosis of this killer. Their little subtle stuff that they do, their like face changes and their little jokey puns and stuff like that. I was just like so like into this film. The comedy in a film like this, it's not even like super heavy-handed or very prominent throughout, but it leaves a lasting impression. They're not like bust-a-gut jokes by any means, but at the end of the day, like Randy, I would say like, oh yeah, this was a funnish film, a black comedy almost about cannibalism, so that's crazy, which just shows like how impactful just those subtle little jokes are to like leave that kind of lasting impression. Soundtrack was great. The overall shots, like the design of this house, it was just very aesthetically like interesting, unique, a unique kind of prison even. Like, oh, we get so many, you're locked in this dungy basement or whatever, concrete walls. Which, I mean, just the fact that they changed that, just the look, I mean, it adds a whole lot. I really I didn't even have any problems with the end. Once you kind of bring it up and saying like, oh yeah, I guess there's the guy out there wandering around and like, oh, the guy kind of took off his car. We don't really know what happens to these women. I didn't like really think about that. And it's like, yeah, I guess that's true. But it really didn't bother me too much, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think if there was any kind of like things that really bothered me. I love how this movie is able to go from comedy to horror to thriller to drama, like with no problem. The flow to me was great. And the 30 minutes in and the credit hits, I was like, oh my God, this movie's so fucking smart. I have no doubt that this is going to be in my top 10 this year, unless like some just banger ass movies just drop this year. This is going in the list. I don't know. For some reason, I don't have any specific critiques, but I don't feel it like it's like this classic, timeless, going to be timeless film. but I can't really explain why. It's just that for, that it factor, I guess. But it comes pretty damn close to checking almost every box I can think of for me. So I'm going to give it a 4.5. I would also say this is something I want to touch on since it's relevant. But this was, even though I think this is a great film, okay, 4.5. I also think, though, since we had this discussion recently, that this isn't a movie that necessarily needs to be in theaters. I think that the platform that it was released on kind of fits this perfectly. And I think that's where kind of movies like this shine. If this got dropped in the theaters, it would most certainly make almost no money. And I probably wouldn't even be super motivated to go see it in the theater because I don't need to see it in the theater. The way I watched this film was perfectly great for me. And so it being like a Hulu exclusive, I was like, yeah, I mean, that's kind of what streaming is doing for these kinds of things, I guess. Like, I don't know if I would, it's 4.5 film that's so great, but I don't know if I'd necessarily be motivated to go see it in a theater. Mm-hmm. I don't know, just curious because we had that discussion recently. Yeah, I know, but yeah.
For me, I'm like, this was intended to be seen on a big screen by the person who made it, and I want to see it that way.
But was it? I mean, did they make it to release?
This was made for Sundance. This was not made for Hulu.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to slide in here real quick.
Bob, out of 5, what you going to give Fresh?
Yeah, this was like such a wonderful surprise, Like a lot of stuff that goes straight to streaming is like mediocre, maybe even worse than that. But like, honestly, this, like the acting, the directing, the style, the like sheer confidence of the director, Mimi Cave, feature film debut, like she knocked this shit out of the park in my opinion. Like it's not an overall perfect movie, but like fuck, it's like an extremely entertaining ride. It's funny, it's truly horrific. It touches on some like real life shit that I think a lot of people can connect to, specifically the online dating and the horrors therein. Like a lot of people are feeling that these days for sure. Also like I'm like really fascinated with this like underground cannibal black market ring, and that like apparently some of it is real. Like that is like absolutely terrible and horrifying. But like just having found out about that and then watching this movie shortly after, I'm just like my mind is blown about the whole thing. Soundtrack is baller. Definitely some like American Psycho inspiration, I would think, where he's like putting on these like pop songs and dancing and having a great time and being charming, but then also like murdering people and eating them. Like it's definitely got that going on for it. The cast is baller. Sebastian Stan is just fucking killing it, dude. Like I want to see this dude in so many other things. I can't wait to see what he does next. I don't know. I think we kind of touched on everything else. A few like small issues, I guess, is like the bartender doesn't really affect the movie too much. The dude that's like with his wife just doesn't really do anything either. I feel like Noah agreeing to go away on a weekend so quickly with this dude after her being so careful with everything else is like maybe a little bit of a stretch, but like none of that really fucking matters too much. I think this movie, it's hard to gauge brand new movies. Like they don't have the benefit of like, time and reflection, like years worth of reflection. But like right now, I think I'm going to come in at a 4 out of 5 on this. Like that could potentially go up. But I feel like a 4 is where I'm going to land today. Randy, how do you feel about Fresh?
I feel really good about the movie. I don't feel as good as you guys do, it seems like, but like the things that I mentioned already are kind of the things that stick in my craw, the things that Rob just mentioned, which like to your point, like, yeah, it's because they don't matter that it kind of matters. Like it's because like the guy just disappears from the movie that I wonder why he was in the movie. And it's because the henchman's out there that I wonder why even have a henchman. Like it just feels to me it's sloppiness, which is an acceptable exchange in my opinion, or it's easier to overlook because everything that happens in the movie is informed by really, really great acting. It's made up for by like the capabilities of the cast, the writing of the dialogue, all of those things kind of like push it beyond the point where that's such a hindrance for me enjoying it. but it still does, like, those are things that I can't help but notice and be like, I hate to use the dreaded word plot hole because it's a fucking hyper abused word. But like it kind of has some, and I don't like, it's okay if those things are to serve a purpose, in the abstract of what the movie's trying to say. I've made that stand before, but I don't know that some of those things do. And I also feel like, there's some ambiguity and some things that don't necessarily need ambiguity, especially with something so blunt. I just kind of feel like my big complaint are those little things, as well as sort of like the feeling that maybe they kind of overplayed and over blunted the majority of the movie to the point where they just didn't have a whole lot of places to go with the ending. And it just almost wrote themselves into a corner a little bit, which, is not the biggest deal in the world, because like I said, the journey itself made it all pretty much acceptable to me. It just wasn't perfect. And I don't know, I think maybe that's what's going to prevent it from becoming like a stalwart mainstay for, the next coming couple decades, a flashpoint of a movie, or even one that, gets brought up, in the same conversations as like fucking The Witch or some shit. Like, I just think that maybe those are the little sticking points that keep it from getting to that level. But it's a really great movie for the most part overall. The craft of it, and especially for a debut film, like, I'm very impressed with that. I don't know, the style of it, the look of it, the color grading, the aesthetic shift from modern day to 60s supervillain. Like, I love all that stuff. And like you guys said, like it's very broadly appealing because it hits a bunch of different sort of like genre beats, and it does it capably within the confines of understandable motivational arcs for the most part. And that's, hey, like if you can do that, then I can let you get away with a lot, but all that said, I think for me, this is a movie that I might also like have my score adjusted higher or lower, depending on how I feel about it in a year or whatever. But for now, with recency bias, trying to account for that, I'm going to give it a 3.5. So that's me.
All right. With that, our aggregate score is
it's a 4.
I know it's I was just teasing you. You get real worked up when I take your spot.
I know what you want me to do. I did. There was one other thing. There was one. No, you're good. There's one other thing that I wanted to mention. I totally forgot. This was produced by Adam McKay's company, Hyper Object Productions. They had put out. They produced Succession, that baller ass HBO show. Also, that Q Into the Storm documentary, which is also on HBO.
Yeah.
And then Don't Look Up, which came out December on Netflix, I think it was.
Oh, that was a Netflix exclusive.
Yeah.
Big Short.
The Big Short. Yeah. And then this movie. Anyway, it seems as though like that Adam McKay's company is putting a lot of baller content out there, and they've got another like 4 or 5 movies in production right now. One of them is starring Anya Taylor-Joy. It's called The Menu. That there's most of it's under wraps, but it sounds like almost kind of similar to this movie based on what I was reading about it. I don't know. Maybe we'll see it later this year. But I'm
direct sequel.
Maybe, yeah. I'm definitely interested in his company and the shit that they're putting out. So I think we should keep an eye on their future.
Damn. Yeah. I mean, if you're not, you need to be, because they've been like since The Big Short, they pretty much proved that it's not just a name of comedy. That's a powerhouse combo.
All on streaming platforms. How are they making money?
Big Short wasn't a streaming movie.
No, it wasn't. But also, I want to give them credit too that like they had the script for this movie and like held on to it for a while until they found the right director, and then Mimi Cave came along, and damn, did they find the right director? Like she fucking killed it. So I'm like really looking forward to more shit from them. Yeah. Anyways, 4 out of 5 for Fresh from the Straight Chilling crew. Let's go ahead and jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about Fresh.
Certified fresh. Yeah.
All right, everybody. This is the Rotten Tomatoes segment. I'm going to give these two gentlemen the chance to guess within the best of their abilities the aggregate user and critic scores for the film Fresh on RottenTomatoes.com. So we're going to start with the critics review. There's 149 of them to take account for. Damn. You want to guess the percentage of positive ones. So starting there, why don't we go with Bob? Bob, you start us off with this. What percentage do you think were positive towards this film?
I feel like this is going to be pretty high. I'm going to go, I'll take an 80%.
80%. Okay. Soju, how about you?
Yeah, I agree. I think it might be higher than that. I'll take 81. I'll take the high end.
Oh, the $1, Bob.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would say that is one of the better $1 Bobs I've ever seen, because that's a ringy dingy for Soju.
Oh, 81%. Ooh, I almost went 85. Woo, woo. Gonna get a eat.
All right. With arms wide open.
Dude, let's see if I can get a double ringy ding hell yeet sweep.
Okay, you just jinxed yourself.
I'm going for. Well, I know, but I just want to build up some tension.
Mickey Mantle over here trying to call his shots.
The Creed needle drop was my favorite.
Yeah, well, I aim to please. All right, yeah. So moving over to the audience score now. There are 250 plus audience ratings. We'll start with Soju. Where do you think the audience lies on this?
I think they might like it a little less because, I don't know, sometimes the audience is stupid like that.
Okay. We're the audience, you know.
We're also the critics, so, you know, I can say that.
We're men of all people.
I know. I'm going to say 75.
75? Okay. Bob, where are you at with it?
I'm going to $1 Bob with a 76.
Ooh, 76. Good year. Also a good call. This is 83%. Actually, a couple points higher than our critics.
All right, the people were smart this week.
Okay, this week.
What's another Creed song I can drop?
I don't remember any.
Photograph.
Yeah, that's Creed.
Oh, yeah, that's Creed.
They're all the same.
Famous Creed song.
Every time you made me laugh.
All right. Critics' consensus reads as follows. As gripping as it is upsetting, Fresh makes a provocative meal out of the horror of modern dating. Oh, I also wanted to point out that this movie, man, I should have brought this up in the recommendation. If you like the show You, have you guys seen that show at all?
I do not like that show.
I don't either. No, I've seen it.
It's garbage.
Becky watched it. I really don't like it also. But to me, this has a similar like look and feel, just minus like the hacky fucking voiceover, the Dexter rip, and minus the bullshit anti-hero nonsense. Like,
I hate that.
To me, I feel like, and it's, you know, it's less pulpy, obviously, but just like visually, even Sebastian Stan kind of looks like that guy to me. But I just kept being reminded of that movie more than that show.
All white guys look the same, huh, Randy?
Heard that.
They do. That's homogeneity, man. Come on,
especially when they don't have beards.
Diverse it up.
When they
don't
have beards.
Oh, I was wondering, does this have the exact same name as that new rebooted Fresh Prince of Bel-Air show?
No, that's just Bel-Air.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was Fresh. Okay, I knew they went with the simplified version.
It's just called Air.
You had about a 50-50 shot. So. Yeah,
I thought it was Fresh for some reason. Bel-Air. That makes more sense. Fresh Air.
Fresh Air. What it's called. No, that's an NPR show.
Bell. Just Bell.
Fresh Bell.
All right, let's try and find a negative review. They tend to be funnier. Okay, here's a negative review. The overall impression is one diminishing returns. That's not worded well.
What?
The film's few inspired instances and throwback horror sensibilities subsumed within a mess of filler. Fresh certainly isn't rotten, but doesn't rise much above last night's leftovers either. Oh, you just wanted to make a food pun, you prick.
Wow.
People who rely on puns for their reviews, no, not taking them seriously.
I mean, come on. That's just rotten.
This is certified fresh.
Certified fresh.
Certified fresh.
Certified. and legally speaking, IP wise, also fresh.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah. I don't know. Sometimes you start things without knowing where they're going, you know?
Yeah.
That's kind of my whole life, actually.
It's about the journey, baby.
It is. I think that's about it for Rotten Maters.
Tight. Any bits of trivia that I had? That's fucking tight, bro.
That's tight, bro.
It's like just a very just a silence and then tight.
That's tight, bro, Randy.
That's tight, bro.
Up top. Any trivia that I had, I already sprinkled throughout the conversation. There really wasn't much, you know, brand new movies typically don't have much. So let's go ahead and jump into Cooter of the Week.
Straight chillin'. Cooter of the Week.
Juice, what is a Cooter and why do we hunt them?
Cooter is a character type and a straight chillin' exclusive. Cooter must hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a Cooter, but we want the Cooter with the most points. The 5 points of Cooterdom are sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall look and attire, and overall patheticness. Boys, this is like shooting fish in a barrel this week. Let's talk about old Sebastian.
The Winter Soldier.
I think there's okay, sure. Let's start there.
We're gonna nail him. Let's see if maybe there might be another one.
Let's nail him.
Let's nail him.
I think they're 2 of the same breed. I want to bring up Chad because he's like the Charmander to Sebastian Stan's Charizard.
All right, let's start with Chad. He had a short little run. Okay, so he
packed it in.
Yeah, he's got smug arrogance. The way he talks to the restaurant owner and a lot of things, really.
Attire, dude,
anything that comes out of his
attire. That
really,
scarf, man. There's no need for
the
anyone
scarf
to wear
and the
a
old
scarf
duck sauce, you know?
Yeah.
Now it's
I don't
all
like that.
Up.
That was just weird. But like also stealing her leftovers, man.
Fuck yeah, what would that'd be some pathetic? Okay, I was gonna say smug arrogance, maybe. I don't know, telling her to bring cash. Yeah. Oh God.
I'll just let you tip a little less because I'm gonna take these leftovers. Like,
yeah, I'm gonna take your food. What? Yeah.
And then, so you want to talk about pathetic is like when he actually flies off the handle after they leave the restaurant.
Yeah, that could be sexual deviance. That could be smug arrogance. That could be patheticness. He just nails all 3 in a couple remarks.
That's why I want to bring this bitch up because I have heard
horror stories like that though. Like, I had a ton of people tell me like, "Yep, that shit happens," and it always blows my mind. Like who could act like that as a human being? That's nuts.
Dude, that's probably honestly like as overblown as it seems or as like ridiculously over the top as that character seems. I know he's an amalgamation of probably a few people and like condensed for time. Yeah. But even still, I don't think that's even remotely the worst case scenario.
I don't think so.
Just in terms of conversation first date, not in terms of like separating violence from that.
And he's he's complaining about her attire and like how women these days aren't like feminine enough. Like,
who has
fuck out of here, God. Scarf boy? What the fuck?
Who has the like needle dick fucking need to say such a thing on a first date? Like, you know, I think girls look okay in sweaters, but I just think that you would look so great in a dress. It's just like you're actively, not only is this like fucking horrible thing to say, a horribly like misogynist thing to say, but it's also just like directly insulting. Yeah. How could you be so fucking tone deaf?
Yeah. And then at the end,
it's just frustrating.
After that horrible date, and what a huge piece of shit he is. He treats her so poorly. And then at the very end, he sends the whole "you up" text, like trying to get a little action in the middle of the night. Fuck out of here.
It is funny that was him.
Fuck out of here.
God damn.
Damn, Bob.
So yeah, that dude's a hardcore Cooter.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is like each one of the points. I mean, I think we could give him look and attire. I think we could give him smug arrogance. I think we could give him sexual deviancy. We could give him patheticness. Manipulation, I guess, is not really strong.
Probably not.
He's not trying to talk her into anything.
And that's the difference between him and Sebastian Stan. There are two key differences, I think, between them. It's that because he has certainly got the manipulation. Obviously, it's like key to his character. It's key to the whole story. But also, Sebastian Stan is only pathetic in small doses.
Yeah, and I would say he doesn't hit on
mostly
the
very
higher that I remember.
You're right about that, actually, I didn't think about that, but you're right.
I would say it's pretty pathetic. Okay, here's where I'm going to say Sebastian Stan is pathetic. Okay, you have been locking these women up and stealing their meat and bragging about it. And you're going to he gets his dick bit off. It's pathetic. I mean,
that's really where you're going with that.
Yeah, that's where I'm going with it. God damn.
You've been imprisoning this woman, and you've somehow convinced yourself that this one so actually gets it.
Yeah,
and gets how great you are, and just wants your dick. No,
that's pretty pathetic, man.
That's pretty pathetic. Yeah. I'll agree with that. I think that Sebastian is like obviously in any point he hits, he's mostly going to hit it much, much harder. But I just wanted to make sure that Chad got in there because goodness gracious.
Sure. Good call, Randy. I had it written down as a no, but I put my notes away.
I think we should book them both personally.
Yeah. So let's see.
Can't just have just one.
Sebastian Stan, he's going to hit on manipulation. He's going to hit on sexual deviance. He's going to hit on patheticness. Smug arrogance. Yes. The way he creams about eating humans is nuts. Even the way he eats it, picking up the little piece. I love how at the beginning, this is something we didn't really talk about, but where they order takeout, he's like, oh, I don't eat meat.
Yeah, I don't eat animals.
It's I only eat. That's part of the smug out. Oh, animals. I don't eat human meat. You don't even know how good it is. Oh.
She licks my asshole a little bit.
Whoa. Looks like Sebastian Stan's not the only cannibal around here.
I know,
yeah. There's some other people getting eaten.
It starts with the licking, and then it goes to the chewing.
You could summarize this movie with the phrase, and then he eats her ass. And then, that's part of the story of this movie. It's pretty funny.
You could start with, and then he eats her ass.
Quite literally.
So this is a movie in which a man eats a woman's ass. Oh, that's my elevator pitch for this.
I'm interested.
Not all of it, just some. Well, yeah, I'm down to book both. Catch
book them, boys.
I'm down, yeah.
We'll put them in the same cell.
Ooh, comfortable bedfellows. I don't think that Chad is going to make a very good meal. Just saying.
Well, women taste better, guys. Don't you know?
Apparently.
Oh, yeah. They just do. What does that fucking mean? What are you talking about?
Just gotta try it to understand, Randy.
Has anyone ever, probably some weirdo has actually, but nobody, for generally speaking, says, no, I'm not going to eat the male cow. I'm not going to eat the... Actually,
no, yeah. Don't they? Because of testosterone? I think, yes.
Is that true?
I think it is.
Then, I guess.
I mean, bulls typically aren't eaten. I mean...
Eaten for meat.
Well, they're used for studding.
Yeah.
But I think that's the only reason.
And then you eat the balls only because that's weird. But that's Rocky Mountain oyster.
Yeah, right? Honestly, I think generally most, we don't eat roosters generally. We eat the chickens.
So that's true.
There's some truth.
Maybe I was wrong about that.
I mean, the truth is there.
I don't know if it's because they taste better, though. I think it's a pragmatism thing where it's you want these things to be impregnated as much as possible. And
maybe
to do that.
I generally think testosterone might have something to do with how it taints the flavor of meat.
Maybe that was a stand that we are not capable of making in one way or the other. Really,
I'm not eating. I'm not over here trying to eat a dude's ass. Just to be clear.
Okay.
We got the Cooters.
Wow.
We got the Cooters. Let's go ahead and jump into what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Oh, I'm so glad Bob cleared that up. Thank God.
I just had to be crystal clear. that we do not eat male ass in this house.
Rob doesn't.
In the house of the chill. Randy, what have you been watching?
Oh God, I have quite a list this week. Actually, I was sick for a couple of days, so I spent a lot of time in front of the TV. So two things I watched real quickly were I rewatched Avengers: Age of Ultron. It's not that great. And I finally did get to see Spider-Man: Far From Home, which I liked quite a bit. And I thought that like the whole the Gyllenhaal character, who I remain nameless for whoever doesn't know about it. I think that was pretty much exactly what I wanted, like effects wise from him. And like that was honestly, like I don't usually go for effects and big budget movies like this. Like it doesn't usually like blow my mind or anything like that. But I really like that sort of thing. That's why I like the Doctor Strange stuff or whatever. That's one of the big, like if you're going to go with CG, I love like mind bending stuff. So I like it. I agree.
I really like Far From Home too.
Yeah. Let's see. And now going into some stuff I hadn't seen before. I watched a documentary called 24x36, which is about the current trend of illustrated film posters, sort of gig posters for film posters. It's made by Mondo, so it heavily favors the bias towards Mondo. But it does talk with a lot of other like artists and production houses and so on and so forth. And I thought, and it also gives a pretty cool history of the medium. Really, it doesn't give a very long one, and that's probably one of the chief complaints I saw about the movie is that it just really creams about Mondo, but it doesn't spend a lot of time in any other field, even modern. Like they don't spend a lot of time with like people who make it in studio setting, which I guess I understand because people have soured towards that stuff. But like, it's still interesting to me, I guess, because I'm wanting to know more about that. Not the worst documentary in the world. It's free on YouTube, or at least I have YouTube Premium now. I know, but
Randy, feeding the machine.
But yeah, I think it's free with ads otherwise as well. So I think it's worth a look if you're like into collecting that sort of thing. I watched some Joe Pera Talks With You, and buddy, I hadn't seen any of I'd only seen season 1. And season 2 has started off so strong. I watched like 4 episodes back to back. It's a fucking great show. Joe Pera Talks With You. It's actually like, it's gone from just inane things, Joe Pera talking about inane things, to actually having sort of like through lines and storylines. And I'm like, I would think that would sour it for me, but it really doesn't. It's actually making it so much better. So good for him. Good on him. I've been watching that BBC comedy Ghosts still, which I think is a little like, it's like the spooky comedy about living in a haunted house or whatever. Mm-hmm. It's good. And at times it's quite hokey. It's like not quite as good of a What We Do in the Shadows type show. And it's not in that documentary style, which, for better or for worse, it's just kind of, I don't know. There's something about it where like, I feel like the writing or the performances or something like that are a little like scattershot sometimes. But it's not bad. I enjoy watching it. I'm going to keep watching it until it's over because it's a British show. So there's only like 10 episodes or some shit. And then I also watched a show on HBO Max called Good Timing with Joe Firestone, in which Joe Firestone, the comedian, the New York comedian, hosts a workshop for elderly and geriatric people to learn how to be stand-up comedians. And then they have a show at the end where they all do like 3 to 5 minutes of stand-up, and it's not a scripted show. It's documentary style or whatever. And honestly, it's extremely like fun and heartwarming. It's not the funniest thing in the world because they're amateur comedians and, frame of reference is a few years removed from us, but it was like, honestly, cute is the word I would use for it. It's a cute show. It's heartwarming and fun. It's a light show. And then on the opposite end of the spectrum, from William Street, on HBO Max. HBO Max now has a bunch of like Adult Swim stuff. That's where I watch Joe Pera Talks With You, which is also an extremely wholesome show. The opposite end of that is a show, or a horror short from Adult Swim called Jack Stauber's Opal, OPAL. And I watched it on a whim. It's an stop motion animated show, and I don't want to say a whole lot about it, but I think that it is one of the better horror shorts I've seen in a while. I like it a lot. It's really fucking, it's heavy. So I like I said, I just don't want to say too much, but please, Jack Stauber's Opal, that's Staubers. Go check this out if you have HBO Max or if you have access to it in some way, because honestly, this is like great original content that is just unfortunately paywalled to some extent. But I'm just so impressed with what fucking Adult Swim does even today. Like the breadth of that, the fact that I went from watching Joe Pera Talks with You, one of the most like I said, like one of the most wholesome shows I've ever seen in my life, like just heart on its sleeve, embrace the inanity of regular life sort of thing, to this like really existentially disturbing animated film on the same goddamn network at the same block of programming is fucking incredible. And I'm consistently impressed with them. So I love them.
Sweet deal. Juice. What you been watching?
Dude, I've been so fucking busy. The only thing I'm watching are like light comedies to turn my brain off. So I finished season 1 of Community. I did watch I'm almost done with the second season of The Righteous Gemstones. So that's like the newest thing I've been watching. I watched the first season finally, like right before I left Korea, or left for Korea. And so I've been watching this season now. And one thing that I like about the second season, I like the first season. It's really funny. But it kind of had a bit of that Sopranos aspect where like everyone's just a huge piece of shit. It's more tolerable because it's a comedy. So they're acting in like ridiculous ways. I like that they smooth that out a little more in the second season where they start to make people more kind of like sympathetic or likable, I guess. It just makes the medicine go down a little bit easier, but it's really funny. It's just, dude, everybody does a great job. Dude, Walter Goggins?
Yeah.
Dude, that dude, anything I see him in, he kills it. But he's so good at playing like a crazy, weird piece of shit, but he's so good at it. But unfortunately, I think like most of his characters that he ever plays are just like huge pieces of shit, or like really weird in some way. But I've really been enjoying that season. And then there was like one more thing I feel like I've been watching. Oh, and some Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So yeah, all just comedies to just wash over me. That's it. Bob, what you been watching?
The only thing I really want to talk about is another Hulu original. This is a show, also starring Sebastian Stan. It's called Pam and Tommy.
I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, it's. I really had no interest in watching it whatsoever until after seeing Fresh, and I was like, "Well, he killed it in that. Let's check this out." And I like the show way more than I anticipated. Actually, I haven't finished it yet. I'm on episode 5 of, I believe, 8. I didn't realize Seth Rogen was in it. He plays a pretty important character in the movie. If you're unfamiliar with the show, it's about Pam Anderson and Tommy Lee. And how they met in the 90s, and they became married, and then they had this sex tape that leaked, and it was like a huge like cultural moment in the 90s, and it's about that moment in these people's lives. And it's again, like Sebastian Stan fucking kills it. Like he does such a great job. It's very great. It's very funny, but it's also like to the show's credit, Tommy Lee isn't like the most likable person, and like Pam Anderson, I don't know much about her personally, but you feel like she's just she's the woman on Baywatch in like skimpy clothing, but like the show does a great job at like humanizing both of them, and it doesn't like just poke fun at them, which I was like kind of worried that might be how they're portrayed. Yeah, that's not really the case though. I don't know. Like I said, I haven't finished it. I don't know how it ends, but so far I'm really enjoying the ride. It's like it's got old Ron Swanson. I can never remember his name. He's just always Ron Swanson to me. He's in it. It's
Nick Offerman.
Nick Offerman. Yeah. It's I recommend the hell out of it so far. I'll probably try and finish it up this week, and then maybe I can talk about the ending next show. But I recommend it. Check it out. It's funny. It's like somewhat endearing. It's like kind of fucking horrific. I dig it.
Is there swinging dong, Bob?
Dude. Yes. I will just, I could go on and on, but I'll just say yes and leave it at that.
It could go on and on. Wow.
Dude, the second episode has this scene that I really don't want to spoil for anybody that hasn't seen it, but that shit was nuts. I recommend watching it. Yeah, Pam and Tommy on Hulu. That's really all I wanted to talk about. We don't have any voicemails for our hotline screams this week. But if you are listening and would like to call in and leave a voicemail to be featured on next show, you can do so at 904-638-3231. I know over on our Slack channel this week, people were sharing horror stories about bad dates that they had been on. I think it'd be kind of cool to open that up to everybody else and say, like, if you've got a bad date that you want to share, call in, let us know what happened. Sharing
what's your horror stories. We've got some Valentine's ones that people call about the like raw meat or something. Whoa, Randy, what's going on over there?
I just found that short on YouTube, so I'm gonna post it when we post this.
Short.
Nice.
I'd be curious. I've heard personal horror stories about like old chads out there, but yeah, what's something crazy or embarrassing or fucking ridiculous that happened to you?
Yeah, tell us about your bad dates.
Bob, you gonna call in?
Dude, I've had bad dates. I'd have to like think about like one that was like really, really bad.
Think about one.
Yeah,
you need a distillation process.
Like, yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll try and think of something to share that's not too much. You know, we'll see. We'll see how that goes.
Sure.
Yeah, call in at 904-638-3231. Do you guys want to do some news? You want to do a little bit of news?
Sure.
Time? All right.
Why not?
Let's do some news.
Extra, read all about it.
All right.
Man, we don't get to use that bump often.
I know, I had to hunt that one down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bob, we got some good. You gonna talk about Ty West today?
Yeah, definitely. That's actually what I'm going to start with. So South by Southwest is currently happening. Ty West has a new movie called X that's going to be released this Friday, March 18th. It's getting a wide release in theaters. But they did a screening of X at South by Southwest. And afterwards, they did a Q&A. And during that Q&A, Ty West surprised the audience with a trailer for a prequel movie to X that he has already completed. Well, he completed filming. It's in post-production right now. And the movie is called Pearl. And apparently at the end of the teaser trailer, it said coming soon. So maybe that'll come out last half of this year.
What is it called?
It's called Pearl.
Pearl.
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't hear you right.
Man, Ty West might be dominating 2 spots on our list this year.
That's old shit. I like it.
I like it too, man. It's really fucking cool. Both of these movies are produced by A24, and I believe both of them are starring Jenna Ortega. That girl is like in every horror movie that's coming out this year. It is insane.
Make that money.
Good for her, man. Obviously, like, you know, none of us have seen X yet. It's not out yet. Hopefully it is dope. I trust in Ty West, man. I like every movie of his that I've seen so far. So, you guys excited about this?
The Innkeepers, that was the one I was pretty.
There's a shakier one for me too.
Yeah.
I love it.
But
I know you love
else,
it, Bob.
dude. The Sacrament, House of the Devil. I'm missing one. That's amazing.
I don't know that many of them, for me personally, rise to like a favorite spot, but I like most of them
House
that I've
of the
seen.
Devil,
All of them
probably,
I've seen,
Yeah. That's good.
I like maybe the Sacrament best out of the ones we've listed. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. The idea that they would release a prequel before the original film or have a prequel in production before the original, that's so crazy to me that like, that's something that's normally reserved for movies like fucking Back to the Future and shit. Like that's not something that studios you typically roll the dice on.
I love it.
That's great.
I love it.
Good for him.
Yeah. Can't wait to see
I'm very happy about that.
I like the idea because this never happens. Like, seriously, this might be the first case of the prequel is maybe written with the movie. So really it's just the story has been written out in this certain, filmed in a certain kind of way, which will probably make it one of the better sequel or prequels to ever exist, because it's usually like 10 years down the road, and because something's successful and you're like, oh, well, let's, I mean, I'm
it's
just
not
saying, like,
retconning anything.
Exactly. It's much better to just write the story together and film it that way.
I mean, I guess they did that with the Fear Street movies, which I thought was great. True. But the fact that it was also kind of a sleeping thing that we didn't know about until after the fact is just so great. I love it when theaters when studios play those games. It's the good stuff.
X has been getting some pretty solid reviews out of South by Southwest, so looking forward to seeing it. Yeah.
Good.
In other news, we got to talk about our boy Rob Zombie for a hot second.
Oh, Bobby Z.
So he's making a Monsters film that's coming out later this year. It finally it's gotten its rating, and it is PG.
That's nuts to me.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
I mean, yeah, it is nuts. And the thing is, like, I have rock bottom faith in Rob Zombie, honestly, based on my personal preferences. Like, I know people like him, so I don't want to take that away from you. But to me, I just don't really like anything I've seen from him as a filmmaker. But we have not seen him do something like this. And that's kind of the key thing that's like making me interested, is that it, at least at the bare minimum, is something deeply different than we're used to seeing from him, which is has never happened as far as I've seen. Like, every movie he's made has been more or less in the same vein in my mind.
The only thing that maybe gives me some kind of hope is that it's an established property that has, you know, certain characters already built in, but it's hard to have any kind of like hope when not only do I think Rob Zombie is not a good director, but everybody that he cast is his regular squad. And I'm not thinking to myself like, man, this person's really going to elevate this movie with this acting.
I do have something to add with that. So there was some news. Cassandra Peterson, who's more, famously known as Elvira, she was cast as a small character in the Monsters movie. Also, Jorge Garcia, who is most famously known as Hurley from the show Lost. He's got a character in here. Richard Brake is in this movie, who is famously the best actor Rob Zombie's ever cast in anything. Jeff Daniel Phillips is actually pretty good, too. He's playing Herman Munster. However, Sherry Moon Zombie is playing Lily Munster. And, like, I don't know.
What?
Yeah.
I don't
Wait, his wife? Is that ethical?
Right.
I mean, Richard Brake for sure. I mean, I'm not even like, fuck yeah, Hurley. I mean, Hurley was fine and Lost as the lovable character of Hurley, but I don't think that dude is like a phenomenal actor or anything. And I think
he's a good actor, but the writing is kind of what's going to make that work. And we have no reason to think that Rob can write his way out of a paperback. So
I don't think the dude playing Herman Munster is particularly good.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited that it's something different for Rob Zombie, and I'm really excited that he's not going like hard R and trying to like switch the monsters up, and we're gonna have like all these trailer trash people.
That is nice.
Yeah,
I'm grateful for that. It's at least trying to be in the spirit of things, theoretically.
Yeah, for sure.
And and honestly, just in a general sense, I always welcome more PG horror related things, because I feel like that's not an avenue that we get a lot these days. We talk about when we were kids, we had Are You Afraid of the Dark and all kind of, Hocus Pocus came out, things that are now, it's classic. But like, I always welcome, family friendly, kid friendly horror stuff, because that's how people get into the genre.
Yeah,
definitely.
Gotta have it.
I don't know that Zombie's the guy to do it, but I'm happy. Yeah. I'd rather see him make a movie that is a family movie in the horror vein than to do anything else like he's done before.
I agree. I would rather this be PG than it be R. So
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, man. Totally. The last bit of news I want to touch on real quick. This is not horror specific, but it is related to movies premiering at South by Southwest. There's a new Nick Cage movie coming at us that's sort of like a meta commentary on Nick Cage's life. It's titled The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. So they finally... Yeah. They screened this.
I love that.
Me too. They screened this at South by Southwest. It's obviously starring Nick Cage. He's playing himself in the movie, and Pedro Pascal is like playing one of his buddies in the movie. They get wrapped up in some sort of like CIA investigation or something like that, and it seems to be like kind of a bromance type of a movie that's just like very over the top. And Nick Cage, I guess there's a few like nods to some of his wilder performances in other movies, and there's a lot of action that unfolds as well. It seems to be getting pretty solid reviews, not necessarily glowing, but like pretty solid. And it seems like Cage really does a good job with it. I don't know. What do you guys think about this? It's something you want to see?
Sure.
Yeah,
I'll see that. I honestly like. I don't know. Like, I think that like Cage has obviously has a reputation with people now as sort of a joke. And I don't think that's entirely fair. Definitely not seeing some of his frankly incredible other work that we're not used to.
Yeah.
But like he has a penchant for going like extra hard on whatever it is he's doing.
Yeah.
I am curious to see how he applies that to himself, especially knowing that reputation and knowing that that's going to be what people are in seats to see for a lot of people. I mean, I wonder if it's going to be like a fuck you for diminishing my career.
Maybe.
Or it could be just like a, laugh, self-effacing, laugh at yourself sort of thing. Or maybe both. I don't know. I'm curious.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of those polarizing people. I've said a couple times, I'm so glad I'm not one of those people who just naturally hate Nick Cage, because I completely understand why somebody would. So I'm just glad that I don't, because I think he really does put out good stuff. And if nothing else, entertaining stuff most of the time. So the fact that he, especially lately, is just like cranking out a ton of shit, it's like, let the man work. I don't care. You know, if you put out fucking 10 things in a couple years and some, most of it is either quality or at least like bonkers entertaining, good on you.
Yeah, for real. I mean, I think he and oh my God, I had to look up this guy's name because I was blanking so hard. He and like Crispin Glover kind of fit into this weird category where they're just kind of they're in it for the art. So, like especially Crispin, who doesn't make a lot of money, like doing what he does. Nick has made a lot of money. He does things to make money, and it's pretty clear when he does, but he never from what I've seen, truly, he never sits on his laurels. You know what I mean? I kind of have a respect for him, especially after seeing Pig this past year. It just really reminded me what he's capable of. It's not just a bombastic Mandy stuff. He can also do incredible shit. It's just a matter of how he approaches it. And he approaches it in a way that is unique to him always. I kind of respect that shit.
Yeah, I do too, for the most part. I think he's a nuts human being, but I respect his work for the most part.
He's a good actor. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what he's doing.
Yeah.
I look forward to watching it. I'll watch just about anything he's in for sure. So keep an eye out later this year for The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. Love that title. That's really all we got for news. We will be back next week with a brand new show. As always, we're going to be tackling the winner of the March poll, which is The Beyond from 1981. We're finally going to get into some Fulci nonsense on this show. It's been a long time coming. Check out The Beyond. It is definitely on Shudder right now. It's probably everywhere else too, but I know it's on Shudder, so it should be pretty easy to find. Slam The Beyond into your eyeballs. Get ready for next week's show. Until then, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. Follow us on Twitter at STR8_chilling, on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. And if you want to join in on the daily Slack channel conversations, hit us up on one of those social media outlets, and I'll send you a link so you can join in on the fun. Until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
And munch on some grinding!